And hello, my friends. This is not a running commentary. It's a sitting in the car commentary because it's raining all day long and yesterday all day. So I could not squeeze in a running commentary that I planned, but I'm going to throw in a beautiful story that is related to this week's Torah portion, Parshas Teruma. And I am sitting right here in Central Park. You can turning the camera around so you can see where I am in a rainy 96th Street entrance. But I'm going to zoom through a quick thought over here. So the story is with the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe. This week is Parshas Teruma. It's about giving. And the story is that there was a Chatan and Kala. There was a bride and groom. They were scheduled to be married today, let's say, or tomorrow, the next day. And back in Russia, the government would often swoop down on people and just grab them for their military services and take them and keep them for as long as they wanted to, unannounced and undesired. And so too this the government of this area where they lived, with the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the government swooped down and took hostage kind of this groom, this Chatan, when his wedding was going to be the very next day. There are three great rabbis were involved in this shidduch and in arranging for the wedding. The young girl, the bride, the family was very poor and they didn't have the means for the wedding, so they arranged for this, and they were all involved in the community, and this was a horribly shocking moment and experience. So the family came running to these three rabbis. Three rabbis were the Alter Rebbe, first Chabad Rebbe, two of his contemporaries, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, and who was known as the lover of the Jews, and Reb Mendel HaRadakar, who in his own right was a great holy man. The family came to these three rabbis, and the response immediately was Reb Mendel HaRadakar, who was one of the great men over there. He said right away, "I swear he will be back for the wedding." End of story. And okay, swear he'll be back for the wedding. And then the family left. They're going, and these rabbis are saying, "Okay, what are we going to do?" So the Alter Rebbe said, "I will make it happen with God's help if you leave it up to me and let me strategize." And the other two rabbis agreed, and they went to the government's office, to the police station, wherever this Chatan was, and they told him the situation, and they said, "We need to get this boy out. What can we do? And the government, of course, said, "It's impossible. These are the rules, and he's staying here." And so they said, "How much do we need to pay in order for this to happen?" And the officer says, "Are you trying to bribe? Is that what you're trying to do? Well, since you're trying to bribe, that itself is a crime. And if you don't have 500 ruble, golden ruble, here by tonight, then the deal is over, and you will be charged for bribery, for attempted bribery." 500 ruble. They walked out the door. They said, "It's going to happen." 500 ruble was an impossible amount. I don't know if it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it was an impossible amount for them to raise in their little Russian community. Totally impossible. No, all the Jews together didn't have that amount. So the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, said, "Let's create a list right now of all the people in the city, all the Jews in the city." The other two rabbis said, "We don't have time to start looking for lists. We have to go and knock on the doors." And he said, "Oh, remember you said you're going to listen to my strategy? You got to listen." And they reluctantly agreed, and they created a list. And in that list, the Alter Rebbe was looking through the list, and he says, "Someone's missing here." He says, "Velvel is missing." And they both laughed. They said, "Velvel? Velvel is a known miser. He's the miser, and he's known that he only has a rusty penny that he gives once in a while to somebody, and that's it." He says, "We're going to Velvel first." And they both again didn't want to. They said Velvel is known not to give anything. Long story short, they go to Velvel. They sit down and they tell Velvel They knock on the door, big mansion. Velvel lived in the outskirts of the town where none of the Jews lived. He was already not part of the Jewish community, and he welcomed them in, and he listened to their story, and he said, "Oh, very sad, very horrible. I would love to help." And he goes to a big safe, opens up a big safe, a big metal safe, and takes out something from the safe and puts it down on the table, and it's a rusty penny, one of the smallest currency that they had there in Russia at the time, and it was old and rusty. They all looked at each other. The Alter Rebbe takes the penny and he says, "Thank you so much, Velvel. This will start us off on our journey and it'll make a big difference. Thank you so much." And he warmly thanked him. And then they walked out. The other rabbis were like, "Let's get out of here fast." And the Alter Rebbe, took it in stride. And moments later, Velvel comes running after them. And he says, wait. And they turn around and says, "Let's just get away from this guy." And the Alter Rebbe says, "Let's go back." And he says, "I'm sorry, it wasn't enough. I want to help you a little bit more." And he brings them back in, and he goes back to the safe, and he brings out a few silver coins, maybe a few copper coins connected to the Parsha. And again, it was worth just a few dollars, if at all. And they looked at each other and said, is this what we came back for? And the Alter Rebbe urged them respectfully. He warmly hugged Velvel and said, "Thank you so much for your contribution. It's very, very helpful, and this will go a long way." And he takes the money and he goes out. And they're already, the other rabbis have said, we have to raise the money tonight. We have a few hours left. Long story short, it happens 3 or 4 times. The next time he gives silver coins, and the next time he gives gold coins, and the next time he calls them back, Velvel, he gives them the whole amount, all 500 ruble. They're all taken care of. So they run to the police station, they pay it off, and the wedding happened, and they lived happily ever after. But they asked the Alter Rebbe, "How did this happen? How did you know? Was this a miracle? What kind of miracle did you create over here?" The Alter Rebbe said, there was no miracle. He said 2 things. This is from the Alter Rebbe's perspective. He said, number 1 is Reb Mendel Haraducker, the other great tzaddik, swore that things will be well and that the boy will be returned. Based on that, I knew it's going to happen. I had no doubt, because a tzaddik doesn't say things that doesn't happen. Number 2 is the next step was logic. He said, I saw the list of all the Jews in the community. With all the people together combined, we didn't have enough money to pay the 500 golden ruble that we needed. The only one who could help us was Velvel. So if it had to happen and Velvel could help us, then it had to be Velvel. And that's what it was. So that was that story. Now, what happened with Velvel? Afterwards, the rabbis came back to Velvel and said, "What happened with you? Why did you start off with this rusty penny and you ended up paying this whole thing?" And Velvel said that since my childhood, I was always a miser. I always had a hard time giving, but I also didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel that people appreciated if I would give anything anyway. And one time, somebody came knocking on my door, and all I had at the time was this penny, and I put my hand in the pocket and I gave it to him, and he threw it back in my face. And he said, ever since that happened, I decided I'm never going to give another person anything but this penny. Over the years, it turned old and rusty, and many times people came to me and I gave them the penny and they threw it right back in my face. And that's the story, until when you accepted the penny and you thanked me with your heart, and you warmly thanked me, and I saw there was a genuine connection there, that you truly meant it from your heart. Something opened up within me and I wanted to give more, and that's why I called you back again. But I was still a miser in my own mind, and I gave a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and each time you thanked me, it opened up something more in my heart. So this gratitude, this gift of gratitude that you gave me, opened up my heart to be able to enable me to give more and more and more. That's the story that I heard. There are different versions of the story. This one is from Shais Taub, the way he heard it, also with many different versions. But long story short, this is the idea. I'm going to throw in another idea from the Rebbe now. Parshas Teruma, it's also all related. That Teruma means giving, contributing, donation. This is what this week's Torah portion is. The Rebbe, but they were in the story of the Torah. It talks about them building the Mishkan, about building the tabernacle, and each person had to donate and give and offer what they were able to. And there were various kinds of donations and gifts. I'm not getting into all the details, but the Torah starts off with those. This is what you should give: zahav, kesef, unachoshes. You should give gold, silver, and copper. I'm going to get to that later, why that order. But what the main point I want to share with you today, one of the main points, is that the Rebbe asks a question. The Rebbe says that, look, in the text of the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to build a Mishkan with the help of the people, B'Tzalel, etc. But how did he know how to build a Mishkan? How did he know what to do? The Torah says, God says, build the Mishkan, Kimo Asher Har'esa Bahar, like you were shown in the mountain, which means to say that the Mishkan, the whole Mishkan, the tabernacle, and all the vessels, the menorah and the table and the Holy of Holies and the tablets and the cherubs, the cherubim, everything was already created. It was already made. It was already blueprinted in the spiritual realms. So Moshe already knew exactly what every iota was going to look like, because it was there already. But it wasn't physical. So the question the Rebbe asks, why did Moshe need... the Mishkan was already there. It was in God's dimension. It was in the world of spirit. It was perfect. But that wasn't enough. God said it's not enough to have matters of the spirit. It's not enough to feel. It's not enough to think. It's not enough to want. The bottom line is HaMa'ase Hu HaIkar. Action is the main thing. We need action. God says the Mishkan is not complete until it's in physical wood and linen and material and leather and skin and etc. down here in this world. So this is the simple message that the Rebbe was saying, that a Jew, oftentimes a person says, oh, I'm a Jew at heart, I love Judaism, I love Israel, I love God, I love the Torah, I love the Jewish people. But the Rebbe says that's not the point. That's all beautiful, but the point is tamim tihya im Hashem Elokecha. Tamim means complete. We should be complete with God. Complete means with our mind, our body, and all the way down to our toenails. The Rebbe says the word tamim, it means literally down to your toenails. Like every single part of us should be complete with God and dedicated to God. So the point over here is that a Jew at heart is great. A Jew in the heart, a Jew in the mind, a Jew in the feelings. But the bottom line is we need action. The Rebbe says we need action. We need taking your tefillin off the shelf, wrapping those leather straps on your arm, on your physical arm, and doing the mitzvah. And those are the mitzvahs. That is the first lesson. That the spirit is beautiful, but it's not what God wants. It doesn't make it for God. God wants action. And so too, the Rebbe says that there are different parallels of the Mishkan into our lives. The Mishkan had, there was the inner chamber, which is the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies, in which the tablets rested, and that represents our mind and our intelligence. Then there was the outer chamber, the Kodesh, where the other vessels were, the menorah and the table and the showbread, and that represents our heart. And then there was the outside courtyard where the people would walk and work, and that represents the rest of our faculties, the rest of our body. So the Rebbe says that they're brought down in the Midrash, there's many parallels between the Mishkan and who we are in many different ways. There's the mind, the heart, and the rest of us. There's also, the Rebbe said, there's the gold, the silver, and the copper. And these there's many different parallels over here too, but the gold, the silver, and copper also are representative of the different levels of our intensity in our experiencing Judaism. So gold is like someone who's on fire. Silver is mediocre. Copper is someone who just gets by. The Rebbe says we need all of us, every part of us needs to be totally on fire, and then finally end up with a kind of like a blessing that the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said that when in this week's Torah portion, when God instructs the Jewish people to contribute, it says, Zot ha-truma shetikhu. This is the truma, this is the contribution that the people should give, that Moshe should take from the people. And it starts off as Zahav, v'chesef, u'nechoshet. Zahav is gold. Kesef is silver. Nechoshet is copper. So the Rebbe asks a question. He says, why doesn't it start from the lower to the higher? Like, first say, okay, this is what you should give. You should give, whoever can give copper, everyone can give a little bit, copper, pennies. And some more people can give silver. And the few can give zahav, can give gold. Why does he start from the top down? He says everyone should give gold, and then also copper, and also nechoshet. Rebbe says that this is really a message from God to the Jewish people, that Jewish people must have gold. Literally. He said we should all be rich. The Rebbe said it's a Jew's responsibility to do whatever he or she can to be wealthy. Literally wealthy. It's a mitzvah. And it's right here in this week's Torah portion. The Rebbe does say it's a mitzvah to be wealthy so that we should be able to help others, to give tzedakah more generously, and do mitzvahs more in a more meaningful way, in a more mehudar way, in a more beautiful way, to beautify the mitzvahs. Instead of buying a smaller mezuzah or an esrog or a tefillin or lulav, etc., you buy the best, the kosher food in the highest standard, etc. Anyway, here are some ideas from this week's Torah portion. Again, it's raining outside. That's why I am sitting in my car, safe from the waters of the world. And God bless you all. Have a good Shabbos. Hopefully next one will be running, not raining. God bless you. Good Shabbos.